أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد. Islam is a religion that encompasses your life. It covers every angle of your life. It covers every facet of your life. There is nothing that it does not cover. However, some people wish to abide by the religion whenever it suits them. They're what you call seasonal Muslims. There's a season for them to be righteous, a season for them to be immoral, a time for them to be grateful, a time for them to be recalcitrant or insubordinate or disobedient in any manner. Islam is for all times. One of the people that implemented this type of Islam was Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, the father of modern day Turkey, where he separated religion from life. If you go to Gallipoli Mosque, for example, if you've ever been to Gallipoli Mosque here in Auburn, I've prayed in there a couple of times. When you enter the mosque, you will notice the Imam that leads the prayer. When he enters, he comes out in civilian clothing. He enters through a door. He will go inside and then he puts on the outfit for prayers. He comes in and he prays. Then he removes the outfit and then he exits as a civilian again. I don't know what his intention is, but this habit was something that was introduced by Ataturk. That Islam remains in the mosque. Once you leave the mosque, once you leave the house of God, you leave the religion inside. You don't bring it out with you. Even with day-to-day issues. When it comes, for example, to us in the center, we see one another, Assalamu alaikum, alaikum assalam, how are you? Good, thank you. And when it comes to our dealing with our house, you come home, you dump your clothes on the floor, you ask your wife, what's for dinner? There's a different, or your mother for the students that return from schools. What's to eat? There's no Assalamu alaikum. There's no how are you. It's as if I choose when to apply what God asks and when to apply what I want to do. Even when it comes to manners and morals. We have manners and morals when it comes to foreigners and work colleagues. But when it comes to family, we cut corners. We can't handle even the smallest push or shove from someone that we love. And even when it comes to your prayers. People think that the prayer is only meant for certain places. That prayer is done on time when you are at home. Prayer is done on time when you are in the masjid or in an Islamic center. But when you're at work, you delay it. Some people used to ask me, but you can't at work. You know, sometimes you have a job that doesn't allow you to pray on time. I said, no, you can. As I recalled to some of the brothers, I said last night that I used to work as a train driver. And that job, you work on time. Once I had to pray morning prayers. I was at Bankstown Station. I stopped and I caught up the time on the rest of the bank. I stopped the train. I got down inside my cabin and I prayed the 2 minutes that it takes to pray Salat al-Subh, Salat al-Fajr. And then I continued on my journey. And that's a job that runs on time. I caught up the time coming around. And if I was questioned, I used to always say I needed to pray. If I'm going to lose my job because I need to pray, well, my prayers come first. But you won't. The ones that end up put in this position are the ones that decide, all right, I need to pray, and they decide they want to do every mustahab there is under the sun. You're not supposed to do that. You do what's required. The salah shouldn't take you. You should be on wudu beforehand. Don't try and make Islam look despicable. Make it look accepted, that I can fill it in. All these people that used to read on the news where someone has an issue in their workplace because they won't let him pray. It's because he wants to pray the Dhuhr and then the Asr by themselves. Well, you're allowed to join them. So why don't you do them together? Don't put your religion in a position where it counters your life. It is a part of your life. Like marriage, for example. When you tell someone, why aren't you married? They say, well, I'm still studying. It is a stupid answer, a stupid reply. It makes no sense. Because you go to high school. Forget high school. Primary school people have boyfriends and girlfriends. This is the world that you live in. You don't see a guy come up to a girl and say, oh, would you like to go out with me? And then she turns around and says, oh, I've got maths homework. Maths homework's in the way, so we can't see each other. It doesn't work like that. They meet up, this is what marriage is. Marriage is a relationship with permission. It's with the permission of God, under God's law. So I can't ever put this as something that prevents me from getting married. Because I need to look at God's law when it comes to this and every other issue. This is where we move to the next point of the muttaqi. The muttaqi, firstly, sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The muttaqi, he who guards against evil, the one that we've been speaking about all these nights. The next point where Amir al-Mu'mineen says, نُزِلَتْ أنفسهم منهم في البلاء كالتي نزلت في الرخاء. Now نزلت is one of those words that you can't explain in English. Okay? So I'll give you the gist of the sentence. What it means is that the muttaqi, during al-bala, which is trial and affliction and distress and hardship, is in the same state as he is during al-rakha, which is ease and comfort. Now let's go over so we can understand what we are trying to say here, what we are establishing about the muttaqi. You remember the hadith you hear on Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, where it says, An-nas abidu dunya. The Imam says that mankind are slaves of this world. And then he mentions, وَالدِّينَ لَعِكٌ عَلَى أَلْسِنَتِهِمْ. That the religion is something that they masticate and they chew. It's something that they talk about. Everyone's subhanallah, mashallah, la ilaha illallah. It has to do with everyone is, as they say, everyone's nice until you scratch them. Then you see if they really are nice or not. Everyone is nice until an issue takes place, a problem arises, and then you discover who you're dealing with. How often have you met someone and you say, this person's a really nice person, and then you lend him some money, or he puts you in a situation where you borrow some money. There are people that even go to Hajj. There are people that go to ziyarah and think that the actions accepted and they still have money for people in their necks. They owe people money. When it comes to money, this is the ultimate litmus test. You want to know what your friend's worth? You think your friend's worth gold? Sometimes you find out he's not even worth $5, because that's what he sells you for. He's not worth $10. And it's always these qualities that come out when it comes to trial. So then he says, يحيطونه ما ضرت معائشهم. That the religion is used wherever it benefits them. I'll explain here. Wherever it involves their day-to-day lives. Then he says, فَإِذَا مُحِسُوا بِالْبَلَاءِ قَلَّتْ دَيَانُونَ. That when trial afflicts them, when situation arises, you'll find only a few are religious. When it's time, when the test is on, when trial and affliction comes, you will know who's religious and you will know who is not. You will know who stands firm and you will know who does not. For example, take a look at people in general. If something comes towards them or their family, a lot of people are biased towards their family. That tribal, when the people have these tribal instincts, that this person is from my clan, that we are from this family. So whenever you want to speak something with regard to what's theirs, they'll say, Baba, what are you doing? أحمل أخاك على 70 محمل. Give your brother 70 excuses. But when it's against them, they flip. When it's something that's opposing them, someone did something to them, they forget the 70 excuses. They throw it out the window. They don't even give half an excuse. That's what he meant. He was looking at me in that manner. That's exactly what he meant. Allah Azza wa Jal mentions about the nations and the messengers that he sent to them. He says, وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا إِلَىٰ أُمَمٍ مِّن قَبْلِكَ. He's speaking to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. He said, we sent to nations, we sent to the messengers before you. He says, فَأَخَذْنَاهُمْ بِالْبَأْسَاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَضَرَّعُونَ. That we put them through what? Distress. We put them through affliction. لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَضَرَّعُونَ. What does that mean? That when you put someone through stress and affliction, remember that in the Arabic lectures that you maybe have listening to, that the mention of the ones that remain in the fire of hell are who? Are the ones that are stubborn, are the ones that are arrogant, the ones that do not stand down to God, the ones that do not have a penitent heart, the ones that do not have a contrite heart, the ones that do not have that love and that affection and that awe and that regard for the Creator. لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَضَرَّعُونَ is so that they may turn, they may beg, they may beseech. If you look at Aqwam, if you look at the nations, Ad, Thamud, all these nations that the prophets came to, you will only find the nation of Nineveh that would turn back to God at this time. When they saw the ghadab coming, when they saw the wrath of God, they turned and they humbled themselves towards the Creator. They showed penitence. They recanted so Allah Azza wa Jal would lift the punishment. God says here, لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَضَرَّعُونَ فَلَوْلَا إِذْ جَاءَهُمْ بَأْسُنَا تَضَرَّعُوا وَلَكِنْ قَسَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ وَزَيَّنَ لَهُمُ الشَّيْطَانُ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. This is a problem. Even if they did beseech God and they turned, as for طبعا even when the punishment came, and those that would even humble themselves, they would turn back to what? Firstly, Allah mentions here, قَسَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ. Some of them would be stubborn, arrogant, they'd harden their hearts. Others, زَيَّنَ لَهُمْ الشَّيْطَانِ. This is why they would not, humble themselves. They wouldn't humble themselves because of these reasons. See, sometimes when God speaks in the Quran, He says, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُ اتَّقِ اللَّهِ اتَّخَذَتْهُ الْعِزَّةُ بِالْإِثْمِ. Sometimes when you tell someone, fear God, be mindful of God, they continue upon the path of disobedience. Why? I'll tell you why. You know, when you read the Quran, you must take heed to the Quran. Allah Azza wa Jal is merciful, there is no doubt. But be mindful that the day of judgment is a day يَوْمَ لَا تَمْلِكُ نَفْسٌ لِنَفْسٍ شَيْئًا. Be mindful, on the day of judgment, you will owe no one anything and no one will owe you anything. Do you know what that means? All accounts will be settled. You will be paying back your debts. Don't sit there. Some people say, well, I'm a Shia, I'm going to go to heaven. I'm a Shia, I will be forgiven. I'm a Muslim, I'm a this, I'm a... Allah Azza wa Jal, when He speaks of this, Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam in a narration says, La wallah, shi'atuna man ata'a Allah. That know by God, our Shia are the ones that obey God. How can I say I am a follower of Ahl al-Bayt and I eat the rights of others? How can I say I follow Ahl al-Bayt and I eat the rights of others? See, the shaitan makes it look nice for them. He makes it look appealing for them. Why? So they can stay on their disbelief. Then Allah Azza wa Jal says, alaykum as-salam, فَلَمَّا نَسُوا مَا ذُكِّرُوا بِهِ. This is something that you need to understand. Sometimes when you forget all the signs and you neglect all the signs of what you've been told and admonished, He says, فَتَحْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ أَبْوَابَ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ حَتَّى إِذَا فَرِحُوا. Then Allah Azza wa Jal gives them everything. Just like those that turned, Allah allows them to live. Allah allows them to see a lot of good. He allows them to see all these things. He says, حَتَّى إِذَا فَرِحُوا بِمَا أُوتُوا أَخَذْنَاهُمْ بَغْتَةً فَإِذَا هُمْ مُبْلِسُونَ. Now, they will be left in this ignorance because everything is coming to them. And then suddenly the word baghta that Allah Azza wa Jal uses in the Quran is to speak of that sudden moment when you die. That moment when you least expect it. You're moving along in your life and suddenly your death arrives. Because they rejoiced exceedingly. Let's understand when we hear this word farihu. Or we mentioned in previous discussions where Allah Azza wa Jal mentions that the people said to Qarun, La tafrah. What's wrong with this? Because we didn't elaborate on this. What's wrong with rejoicing exceedingly? Allah Azza wa Jal speaks in the Quran about this. فَإِذَا مَسَّ الْإِنسَانَ ضُرٌّ دَعَانَا ثُمَّ إِذَا خَوَّلْنَاهُ نِعْمَةً مِنَّا قَالَ إِنَّمَا أُوتِيتُهُ عَلَى عِلْمٍ بل هي فتنة ولكن أكثرهم لا يعلمون. That Allah Azza wa Jal says, when we take affliction from someone and then we replace this thing, because sometimes when you're afflicted you turn back to God. This is what I need to talk about. Those that to understand, so we can get to the final point that I'm trying to establish here. That those that turn to God only during affliction, during problems. Allah Azza wa Jal says that we then give them our favors, our blessings. Then when they get their blessings and everything changes, what do they say? They say this is from what we, from ourselves or from what we did. They do not notice where the favor came from. Before I move on to explain this point, there's a point before this. Some people remember God only when there is ease. Some people only remember God when there is comfort. This is the statement of Imam Hussein speaks, that when the trial comes, you'll only find there are a few that are pious. In another situation, some people only remember God when there is trial. They don't remember Him in comfort. So here, we turn to those that remember God only when there's comfort. Allah Azza wa Jal speaks about them in the Quran. He says, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَعْبُدُ اللَّهَ عَلَى حَرْفٍ. That there are those that, when he says ala harf, we're talking about an edge. There are those that worship God upon an edge. That they're on the verge of Islam. Some people accepted Islam at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. And when they accepted Islam at his time, that they would pray behind the Prophet, and in their sleeves they would keep an idol. And they would do this in case the mushrikeen would overpower the Muslims. They were unsure, then they would stand up and say, look, we're one of you, so do not kill us. We were always on your side, we were just playing along. There are those that worship God, they're on the verge, they could turn at any moment. فَإِنْ أَصَابَهُ خَيْرٌ أَطْمَأَنَّ بِهِ. That here it says that when good and comfort comes to them, they're happy with their Lord. You know, those that, have you seen those that they follow the religion and they're happy with Islam, and then suddenly the first of Shahr Ramadan is about to be disputed. Right now the Eid's coming around the corner. Inshallah, the Eid is upon you this year and every other year for many years to come. Inshallah, that these days are days of blessing for all of you. ببركة الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. But these people, when the Eid is about to come along, what happens? They come up and they say, why is there أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد. That when the Eid is upon them, when the Eid comes along, this is unbelievable. Something so simple that can make people turn from religion. They go, why can't we all agree on one day? And it becomes an issue. It becomes such a great issue that some people start thinking there's something wrong with the whole religion because the people can't agree upon one day. An example that I've given several times about that young gentleman that changed sects from one sect to another. He was a Shia and he turned to Sunni. He moved from one sect to another. And I asked him, why did you change? He said, because they have a larger congregation in their Jama'ah prayers than we do. That was his answer. That was an answer you give. Imagine this guy standing on the Day of Judgment and says to God, yep, I followed their path because they got numbers. You might as well become a Catholic. They got bigger numbers. You go there, watch when the Pope turns up. You saw what happened, do you remember a couple of years ago when he came to Sydney? It was madness. They had a massive congregation. Or you could become a Hindu. They've got even a bigger congregation during their Hindu festivals. If that is the scale that I'm going to judge things upon, if I want to judge the day of Eid being at what point is the point that I follow. وَإِنْ أَصَابَتْهُ فِتْنَةٌ انْقَلَبَ عَلَى وَجْهِهِ. However, this is the point we get to. As long as everything is smooth, they stay upon their faith. But when a trial comes, some people have said something this petty turns them. They turn back to what their thoughts are. to what's really there, to the way that they actually think, the way that they are actually set. This is just an introduction to what the actual discussion is. The discussion, inshallah, which will be spoken about entirely tomorrow night, is about how the muttaqi deals when it comes to times of hardship, and how he deals when it comes to times of ease. It's different to the way that everyone else works. That the muttaqi is always in a single state in both these situations. Inshallah, tomorrow we'll cover this. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to forgive us our sins and to hasten the reappearance of our master Al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan. وهذا والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى اللهم على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.